So we're going over our answers for our 3.2a operant conditioning practice. We have two examples that are done for us, and then we're going to annotate the rest of it. So in the first example, it says a woman watching a football game offers her child candy to play quietly. So playing quietly is the behavior that's appropriate. We want to encourage that to happen. So that is reinforcing, right? I want this behavior to continue. I'm offering a piece of candy. That is my stimulus because I'm giving candy, right? I'm adding candy to increase this behavior, so that is positive reinforcement. Next, at a party, a husband removes or becomes sullen when his wife flirts with a colleague. The behavior here is the wife flirting. That is inappropriate behavior, so I want to decrease that behavior. Becoming sullen is to give the silent treatment or become upset and remove attention from. So this then would be negative punishment because I want to decrease that behavior. And I can add right up in here. So if I'm increasing a behavior, I'm reinforcing it. Reinforcement. And if I'm decreasing a behavior, I'm punishing it. Right? So next, an employee of the month gets reserved parking space. So I need to decide what is my stimulus and what is my behavior. So the behavior is being employee of the month. That means that I'm doing something really awesome. Then the getting a parking space, that is going to be the stimulus. So that's my stimulus. And to have something, right? I'm getting a parking space, so that is positive. Employee of the month, that's appropriate behavior. I want to continue that behavior. So that is going to be positive reinforcement, or PP. Next, a child is put in a chair facing the corner for misbehaving. So what's the behavior? I want to decrease the misbehaving, right? We want to stop that behavior. And we are going to stop that by putting the child in a chair. So we're facing the corner. Now facing the corner, I'm removing all other stimuli. So this is going to be negative punishment because I'm removing, right? I'm putting that person in the corner, removing everything else, and that I'm going to decrease that behavior. Next, a mother smiles when her child utters mama. So the behavior is the child uttering mama. The mother wants that to continue, right? The stimulus is the mother smiling. So the mother smiling should increase the amount of times then the child calls out mama. So it should increase that behavior because I'm adding a stimulus. So I'm adding reinforcement to continue that behavior. So that is positive reinforcement. Next, a child receives $5 for earning good grades in school. So the behavior is earning good grades. We want to continue that because that's appropriate behavior. The stimulus is receiving $5. And so since I'm receiving it, I'm getting it, therefore it's being added. So this then is positive reinforcement as well. Next, a professor gives extra credit to students with perfect attendance. So I'm getting extra credit. The behavior is perfect attendance. We want to keep that attendance up. And then the professor gives extra credit. So since I'm adding a stimulus and I want to increase that behavior, we're positive reinforcement. A rat presses a lever to terminate a shock. So behavior is pressing a lever. I'm going to increase that behavior to terminate a shock. So to terminate something is to remove it. So that then would be negative reinforcement. Because I'm removing the stimulus to increase that behavior. A wife is nagging her husband to take out the trash. The behavior is taking out the trash. Behavior is taking out the trash. The stimulus is the nagging. So I went back and forth on this one. If you are looking at this from the wife's perspective, right, she's adding the stimulus of nagging to the husband, and then it gets him to increase that behavior because when she nags at him, he does what she wants to do, right? So then that's going to be positive reinforcement. But if you look at it from the husband's perspective, he wants the nagging to stop. So to stop the nagging, he takes out the trash. So from his perspective, it would be negative reinforcement because when he takes out the trash, the nagging stops. So he's removing that stimulus by taking out the trash. But we're going to look from the wife's perspective. So this would be positive reinforcement. Next, a prisoner loses TV privileges for 1 week for a rule violation. So the behavior is a rule violation that's inappropriate to violate rules. So we want that behavior to decrease. The stimulus is the TV privileges. So the TV privileges are going to go away. So then I'm taking the stimulus away and going to then hopefully punish that behavior or stop that behavior, remove it. So this then would be negative punishment. And I'm scolding a child for playing on the street. The behavior is playing in the street, which is inappropriate behavior. So I'm going to want to extinguish that behavior, and I'm adding a stimulus. So since I'm scolding, I'm adding that stimuli. So this is positive punishment. Next, we have a child receives a spanking for biting her brother. So I'm adding the stimulus of spanking, right, because they receive the spanking. Biting the brother is inappropriate behavior that I'd like to extinguish. So this is positive punishment. Next, not allowing a teenager to attend a planned sleepover after discovering a candy bar she had stolen from the store. So the behavior was stealing, which is inappropriate, so we want to decrease that. And so we're not allowing the teenager to attend a planned sleepover. So not allowing something, I'm removing that stimulus of that sleepover. So this would be negative punishment. A student is dropped from all courses after cheating on a test. So being dropped is the stimulus. And then cheating is the behavior. This is an inappropriate behavior, so we want to decrease that. The student is dropped from all courses. I'm removing that student from classes, so that would be negative punishment. Next, we actually have an interesting one. So it says a parent puts a quarter in a child's piggy bank for each nice or helpful gesture the child performs and removes a quarter for each mean or selfish gesture the child performs. So we're talking about being helpful or selfish. So those are my behaviors. This is appropriate behavior, so I'd want to continue to increase that. Being mean or selfish is inappropriate behavior, so I want to decrease that. If I'm adding a quarter, I'm putting a quarter. This is in adding a stimulus, right? Because the money is the stimulus. If I remove a quarter, I remove the stimulus. So the first part is positive reinforcement, and the second part is negative punishment. So you can use those things together, right? And to get the desired effect. Doing both of these is going to reinforce what you want because there's a stimuli for both the positive behavior and there is removal of a stimulus for the negative behavior. We're going to go through just the first set. I think you guys will be able to get this. So you stick your hand in a flame and you get a painful burn. All right, so painful burn is my stimulus. Okay. And then It's adding pain, so that's an add because I'm adding painful burn. And then sticking my hand in the flame is not appropriate behavior. I would like to decrease that behavior. So that is going to be a decrease. So positive decreasing is positive punishment. Bobby fights with his sister and does not get to watch TV that night. So fighting with your sister is the behavior. It's an inappropriate behavior. We'd like that to decrease. Not watching TV. So that is my stimulus that's being taken away. So negative punishment. Next, we have a child misbehaves and gets a spanking. It's getting a spanking. So that's adding a stimulus. Child misbehaves, that's the behavior. It's inappropriate behavior. We want to extinguish that or decrease that. So I'm adding a stimulus to decrease the behavior. So that's positive punishment. I come to work late regularly and I get demoted. Behavior is going to work late. That's an inappropriate behavior. I want to remove that. The demotion is the stimulus. Because I'm losing, I'm demoted, that is a negative because I'm taking away rank. So because I'm taking away that person's status, that's a removal of a stimulus. So that is negative punishment. Okay, I take an aspirin to eliminate a headache. The stimulus is the headache, right? Because that's a feeling. So I want to take it away. I'm eliminating it. And I'm taking an aspirin. So that is the behavior that will increase in order to get rid of that headache. So that is negative reinforcement. All right, you walk the dog to avoid having dog poop in the house. All right, so I'm walking the dog. That's my behavior, the behavior that's being taken. So walking the dog, that's the behavior. That's going to increase so I can avoid pooping in the house. So pooping in the house is the stimulus because when you see that, it encourages you to walk the dog more in order to not have that happening. So that is going to become negative reinforcement. All right, next we have Nathan tells a good joke and his friends laugh. So he's telling a joke and his friends laugh. So we're increasing the stimulus of the laughter, which is then going to encourage Nathan to continue telling jokes. So that is positive reinforcement. All right, you climb on a railing off a balcony and fall. So when you fall, you're getting pain. So you are increasing that because I'm adding pain. I'm climbing on a railing off a balcony and I fall. So the climbing a railing is the behavior, and that should then decrease with the addition of that stimulus of being hurt. So this will be positive punishment. Next, Julie stays out past her curfew and now does not get to use the car for a week. So Julie stays out past her curfew. That's the behavior. That's inappropriate behavior. I want to decrease that. Now she does not get to use the car. So the stimulus is not using the car. So therefore it's getting taken away. So negative, decreasing. This is a negative punishment. Robert goes to work every day and gets a paycheck. So he's going to work every day. That's the behavior. We're going to increase that or continue that behavior because that stimulus of getting money, I'm adding to that behavior, right? I'm encouraging that because I'm giving money when this behavior happens. So it's positive reinforcement. Sue wears a bike helmet to avoid head injury. So head injury is my stimulus. A head injury is something that is, I want to take it away, right? I want to avoid the stimulus. So Sue wears a bike helmet. So wearing the helmet is the behavior. So that's going to increase. And again, I'm avoiding. a head injury. So I'm removing that stimulus of hurting my head. So I'm going to increase my behavior. So that is negative reinforcement. Tim thinks he is sneaky and tries to text in class. He is caught and given a long, boring book to read, or his cell phone is taken away from him. So the stimulus is the boring book. So I add a stimulus. The behavior is texting in class. So then that's an inappropriate behavior. So that behavior should decrease with the addition of the reading. So that will be positive punishment. Next, we have Emma smokes in school and gets her hall privileges taken away. So smoking in school is inappropriate. We need to extinguish that behavior. And then privileges are taken away. So stimulus is removed. So we have negative punishment. Saw falls asleep under the sun and gets sunburn. So my behavior is falling asleep. The stimulus is sunburn. Now this is painful and it's adding something to the body. So this is an increase in a stimulus. Falling asleep is behavior that is going to decrease. So it is a positive punishment. A rat presses a lever and gets a shock. So I'm adding the stimulus of getting a shock. I'm pressing a lever, which is the behavior. I want that behavior to decrease because as I continue to press that lever, I'm going to get a shock. So then that becomes positive punishment. Next, Joe puts on deodorant to avoid having body odor. So the behavior is putting on deodorant. I want to avoid having body odor. So I'm going to increase that behavior because then that avoids the stimulus of body odor. So that will then be negative reinforcement. Next, Marco studies a lot and gets a good grade. So stimulus is a good grade. Studies a lot is the increased behavior. So positive reinforcement, as long as I'm studying a lot, I'm getting a good grade. The squirrel runs up a tree to escape a predator. So runs up a tree is my behavior. That's going to increase as long as I'm escaping a predator. So that's a negative because I'm away from the predator then, right? I'm removing that stimulus when I climb a tree. So that is going to be negative reinforcement. And so the same thing with the others. Just read them out, figure out what the behavior is versus the stimulus, and you got